You know that feeling when you're blasting your favorite rock song and you just have to wonder, how did they do that? How does a little riff someone hummed or a lyric scribbled in a notebook turn into this massive, epic thing that ends up on the radio? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and take that exact journey, from that first spark of an idea all the way into your headphones.
Right? We've all been there. And the answer, it turns out, is this incredible mix of pure art, some really cool physics, and a whole lot of amazing technology. So we're going to break down the entire process, from the very first drum hit to that final, shiny, ready-for-the-world polish. Let's dive in.
You know, to really get how music is made now, you kind of have to see how it used to be done. Back in the day, recording was intense. The whole band had to gather around a single microphone and play the song perfectly, all at once. If one person messed up, everybody had to start all over again. No pressure, right? But now, it's a totally different world. Artists record each part on its own, and then assemble it all on a computer, kind of like building with audio Legos.
And this change was a huge deal. I mean, it started with musicians literally cutting the sound into wax discs, a super fragile one-shot deal. But then the 1950s brought magnetic tape, and that changed everything. It wasn't just about better sound. It introduced the magic of editing. You could physically cut out a mistake with scissors and tape the good parts together. Fast forward to the 90s, and the entire studio basically jumped inside the computer, kicking off a whole new creative revolution.
Okay, the one piece of tech that truly unlocked all modern music is this idea right here: multi-tracking. Think about it. This means the drummer can record their part on a Monday, then the guitarist can come in on Tuesday and add a killer solo, then the singer lays down the vocals on Wednesday, all for the same song. And this isn't just about making things easier, it's about total creative freedom. It lets you layer sounds and build these huge sonic worlds that would be absolutely impossible to capture all at once.
So, what do you actually need to make all this music magic happen? Well, it really just boils down to three essential things: the perfect space, the right tools for the job, and of course, the right person in charge of the whole operation.
Now this is where things get really cool. A recording studio isn't just a quiet room. It's basically a scientific instrument designed to perfectly control sound. The walls are built at weird angles so that sound waves don't bounce around and create nasty echoes. You see those soft, foamy panels? They're there to soak up any extra noise. And there are even special bass traps in the corners just to handle those powerful low notes that can make a recording sound all muddy.
Next up are the tools. And really, microphones are the ears of the studio. An engineer chooses a mic just like a painter chooses a brush. You've got your dynamic mics. These are the tough workhorses. You can stick them in front of a loud guitar amp or a snare drum, and they can take it. Then you have condenser mics. These are like the fine detail brushes, super sensitive and perfect for capturing every tiny little bit of emotion in a singer's voice. And this quote right here, it perfectly sums up the role of the captain of our ship, the music producer. See, they aren't always the one playing an instrument. Their job is to see the big picture, to guide the entire project from start to finish, and help the artists get the best possible version of their vision, exactly like a director does for a movie.
So what does being a director actually look like in the studio? Well, the producer helps the band choose their very best songs. They coach the musicians to get an amazing performance out of them. They're also keeping an eye on the budget and the schedule, but maybe their most important job is being a translator. They have to turn a band's creative ideas, like I want this part to sound more purple, into technical instructions the sound engineer can actually understand.
Okay, so we've got the room, we've got the tools, and we have our leader. Now for the fun part. It's time to actually build the song piece by powerful piece. You know, most rock songs are built from the ground up, just like a house. You have to start with a solid foundation, and that almost always means recording the drums first. Why? Because the drums lock in the rhythm, the whole heartbeat of the song. Once that backbone is there, then you can start layering on the bass and guitars. And finally, the lead vocal, the main melody, sits right on top.
Let me tell you, recording drums is often the single hardest part of the whole process. That's because a drum kit isn't just one instrument. It's like a dozen instruments all played by one person. So you need a separate mic for the snare drum, mics for the tom-toms, a special mic just for that deep punch of the bass drum. Then you need a couple of mics way up high to capture the cymbals and the sound of the whole kit together. It's a really complex puzzle to get right.
Getting that classic crunchy electric guitar sound is a little bit simpler, but it is all about precision. The go-to technique is to put a microphone right up close to the speaker of the guitar amp. But here's the really neat part. Just moving that mic an inch to the left or right can completely change the tone, making it go from super bright and aggressive to warm and mellow.
You've definitely seen these before, right? That black mesh circle thing that singers have in front of the mic? Well, that's a pop filter, and it's a super simple but brilliant little invention. When you say words with a hard P or a B sound, a puff of air shoots out of your mouth. On a sensitive vocal mic, that creates this horrible popping sound. That little screen just stops the puff of air and keeps the vocal track perfectly clean.
All right, so all the individual parts have been recorded, but right now it's not really a song yet. It's more like a collection of different sounds. This next phase, this is where the real magic happens. This stage is called mixing, and it's an art form. The mixing engineer takes all of those separate tracks and gets them to play nicely together. First, they balance the volume of everything so you can hear it all clearly. Then they use a tool called EQ to kind of sculpt each sound, so the bass and the kick drum aren't fighting each other. They use panning to place sounds in your left or right speaker, which creates that big, wide sound. And finally, they add effects like reverb to make it sound like the band is playing in a giant stadium, even if they recorded it in a tiny room.
So after the song is perfectly mixed, there is one final super important step, mastering. Just think of it like the final quality check. A mastering engineer listens for any tiny little clicks or mistakes, they add a final layer of polish to make the whole thing sound loud and powerful, and they make sure all the songs on an album are at a consistent volume, so you're not constantly reaching for the volume knob. This is what makes a song sound truly professional and radio ready.
And, like we talked about, pretty much this whole process today, from the recording and editing all the way to the mixing and mastering, it all happens inside a computer. A program called a Digital Audio Workstation, or DAW, has basically crammed a multi-million-dollar studio onto a laptop. And this has completely changed the game, making it possible for anyone, anywhere, to create amazing-sounding music.
So, there you have it. That is the entire journey. It starts with recording each instrument one by one. Then it moves to the delicate art of mixing all those pieces together. It gets that final coat of paint in mastering, then it's sent out through distribution networks all over the world until it finally lands right here in your headphones. So, the next time you hit play on your favorite song, I want you to listen just a little bit closer. Because now you know what you're really hearing. It isn't just music. It's a carefully built piece of architecture, made with science, guided by art, and standing on the shoulders of decades of history. All packed into about 3 minutes. Pretty wild, right?